Let's see. Okay, let's see what today has in store for us.
Yeah.
Sounds working. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglash for the WDMA. We're going to be talking about Google today and innovative direct mail. So hang on to your hats, but right now let's have some fun and see what Fiat is up to in their new commercial. I'm playing it a little fast. It's mostly music.
Il grigio, il colore preferito di tutti noi costruttori di auto.
Gray.
Grigio tedesco, giapponese.
Japanese,
Bene,
German,
vede sempre. Ma scusate, qui non parliamo della Germania o del Giappone o della Francia. Parliamo dell'Italia.
We're
E guardate,
from
l'Italia è
Italy.
gioia, ottimismo,
Just look,
amore,
Italy is
passione,
joy,
vita.
optimism,
Allora,
love,
cosa
passion.
c'entra il grigio?
And what is gray
Il mondo
to do
non
with
ha
that?
bisogno di
Nothing.
un'altra macchina grigia.
The
Cambiamo le
world
regole.
doesn't need another
Da
gray
oggi,
car. So from
niente più
today,
Fiat grigi.
Fiat, no more gray. We can quit making gray cars. And this is real, no CG. A big, big, big vat of orange paint. And that's a real crane, and that's a real city square, and that's the real CEO of Fiat who insisted that it be real. And he's in the car, dunked in a vat of orange paint. And here he comes out again. Yeah, and we'll see the article by my friend. Oh, look at that. Here we go. From June, Fiat will no longer produce gray cars. And apparently their sales are up. Italy, the land of colors. Fiat, the brand of colors. Fiat. How cool is that? Oops, what happened? Why is it all white? Here comes a bird. Anyway, so let's get over and find out about the story of that one. And here we go. From Amy Houston, I got to turn this off. So here we go. Fiat is making car ads more colorful by putting its brand first and its product second. And thank you, Amy, for the insight here, because it is, you're going above and beyond today. Last week, Italian brand Fiat proudly told the world it would no longer make boring gray cars. Now, I have to admit, I have a gray car. In Wisconsin, you almost have to buy gray cars because in the summer, the black ones get hot and dusty. And in the winter, they're covered with salt, and any other color is covered with salt. But gray doesn't show the salt as much as everything else. White is also pretty good, but it's, dirty half the time. Wisconsin is the land of dirty cars mostly, but we have a lot of car washes. So they're no longer going to make anything else. Oliver Francois is being lowered into a vat of orange paint while sitting inside one of its new 600E cars. And he was in on it from the very start. He said he had this idea to stop making gray cars, but that if we didn't come up with something amazing, he would never do it, said Francesco Martini. I will never stop making gray cars if I can't communicate it in a way that's really bold and strong enough to convey the news. It was quite demanding from him. Okay, so gray cars are everywhere, but Italy is the land of color, and Fiat is the automotive Italian brand, according to head of strategy Andressandro Messe, probably. When you think of Italy, you don't think of the color gray. You think of colorful houses and blue skies, so we thought we could leverage that. It's La Dolce Vita for all, making life a pleasure every day, says Martini. The issue was to link this position to the idea for the ad. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. On one side, it's a stunt, and on the other side, it's a brand manifesto. Okay, and a lot of this hyperbole from ad agencies, is just that. But in this case, it was a bold idea, even in terms of production. Okay, it was more expensive than commercials for classic car launches. It looked like a Hollywood set. The whole production was completely real. When you see Francois being lowered into a mammoth bucket of paint, he really was in the car. In fact, he was the one pushing to be in it rather than using CGI. It was a long process to make everything safe. The irony of the whole thing is, if we look back at the picture, the irony is that when I saw this, I thought it was CG because it just was too weird, right? And it's not. So that's kind of cool. But if you didn't know the backstory, you would automatically think that's too crazy, too expensive. They never made it that way. So anyway, that's a fun story. Okay, here's an interesting story that came up on my direct mail search, which I do every day, and it's about MSNBC's take on Moms for Liberty. I saw one headline on this topic that said basically, Moms for Liberty, extremists challenge that parents know best for education, or something like that. It was really interesting. I thought, or for educating their kids. And I thought, well, they should have a say in it, don't you think? Plus everybody, I mean, a lot of moms that I know, probably almost all of them went to college, and often with a more intensive degree than education. So anyway, extreme right-wing education-focused organization picking school board fights, and I have to admit we had a little bit of a tussle. I don't know if it's this group, but somebody came in and they elected a whole slate of new school board people in our school. And I have to say, I knew someone on the school board, and he's a real good guy. And although I'm not sure he got much done, I've been asking him for a few things, like a second exit out of the high school, because they don't really have a way to get people out, and they have lots of kids with cars. But besides that, so this thing, and they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 presidential candidates in to speak, which is pretty something. I got to give them that, and they give them a venue to speak. So that's, and they don't all agree on education, I'm sure. The group is already pushing a bigoted anti-education agenda under the guise of parental love and care. Well, for my take, education isn't, in our local public school, I took my kids out because the teacher went out of her way to demo to my kids that to my daughter that language was handed down orally, and since the kids played telephone and completely changed the story, then all ancient literature has at least represented the world, and at best is just nonsense. As having an ancient history degree, I was kind of shocked at that one. But anyway, so whether they're right or wrong, I thought it was funny. The founder's husband, Christian Ziegler, presented and said, "Don't apologize. Apologizing makes you weak." And he rightly probably pointed out that the apology will be the headline of the story that gets run against you. So it makes sense. There was one little trick in here I thought was funny. I had a whole lot of trouble getting this article to print. First it chopped the end off, and then it chopped the beginning off, and so we'll just skip it. But one of the things they suggested, which I don't think is in here at all, because it got and I also put in like 150 pages from another directory, so I was having all kinds of trouble this morning. But this Christian guy, that's his name, Christian Ziegler, said if you want to get under the skin of your opponents, do a mailer like 50 pieces to the neighborhood and friends of your opponent, and just do 50 pieces, and they'll think it went to everybody in the whole county. Now, how you'd identify their friends, I'm not exactly sure. But I've always made the point, when you're evaluating your competitors, make sure you're really evaluating a competitor that knows what they're doing. Because my experience with 70 plus direct mail catalog companies is that most of them don't. Most of them don't do much consistent testing. They don't do much square inch analysis, or I do percentage of page. And so don't be surprised if you're tracking them too closely. And he said that your opponent will, and will be shocked. But I would say if it's worth sending out, send out something quality, and send out something to the district. Okay, enough of that. Did Google mislead advertisers about TrueView skippable in-stream ads for the past 3 years? And this is the ad budget of a big brand who must have shared that with this report. This report is 170 pages, so I'll put that in the show notes. But basically, they said that their spend was 51% in Google Video Partners web pages, and most of that, according to this study, was autoplay mute videos, sometimes clipped, unviewable portions or completely unviewable, and running autoplay without any sound. So just the kind of digital advertising that throws itself away. and only 16% was run on YouTube. You know, and even though that's what the advertisers thought they were buying, they thought they were buying YouTube ads. And because they run silently and often the skip button is missing, that means that the website gets paid for an entire view, even if you didn't see it. And the brand is billed for a completed view, which they pay extra for. Okay? And so it's a huge problem. And the truth is, it's really, really hard to find out what's going on in digital. And that's why the best way is to stop it. Stop it for a week, stop it for a month, see if anything happens. Now, I would suggest you fill in with mail in that point. You can make it eminently trackable so you won't confuse it with the digital halo effect that might be around. And you know who got mailed. So, you know, like that previous story. So you can exclude people who didn't get mailed. It's not a great idea because you may get pass along. But nevertheless, you can at least attribute carefully the sales that come from the list that you rented or whatever, or your customer list. Okay? So this violated all kinds of rules, but the best part was down here a little bit. This shows an ad that you couldn't really even hardly see the Chase logo. It was cropped out, JP Morgan. Here's two kayak ads running concurrently with the sound off in a diminished size. Nobody goes to walled gardens like YouTube to run on an audience network which have the same crappy inventory. This is a method for YouTube and Google to extract more budget and manufacture scale in a way that's palatable to advertisers because they don't understand it. Here's some of the people that got fooled in this: Wall Street Journal, the European Parliament, the U.S. government, New York City, Hewlett-Packard, Bayer, JP Morgan, American Express, Samsung, Macy's, Disney, Best Buy, Mercedes, General Motors, Pizza Hut, Microsoft, Instacart, IBM, Ford, Honda, Vimeo, the North Face, Volkswagen, Petco, McDonald's, Siemens. These are big advertisers. The ANA should be in on this, Lisa. I hope you are. You probably are. I know you have a commission for that. So anyway, this is huge. Like I said, it's 170 pages, but there's just Pfizer there, one of the biggest advertisers in the country, KitchenAid, and Google was observed serving True brands on websites that have had tens of thousands of copyright violations, takedown requests filed against them, and potential piracy sites, raising the other possible concerns. But the funniest part was down here. A member of the European Parliament, Paul Tang, also said, Google deliberately makes itself the play doll of dictators, also dragging the European Parliament through the mud. The same parliament that declared the Russian Federation in November of 2022 a state sponsor of terrorism advertises on Russian propaganda websites like Pravda because of YouTube's scandalous system. Okay, so what the shakeout is, keep an eye on your digital if you're doing it. Okay, here's innovative direct mail ideas that break through the clutter by Kelvin. I don't know who Kelvin is. at conceptphones.com is the site. But, you know, he put up a good website, and he talks about, you know, getting your direct mail through the clutter. Unfortunately, most of these techniques are wonderful. You know, pop-ups, pull tabs, scratch-offs makes the experience memorable, more time with your direct mail piece, augmented reality. You know, I heard from Stephanie at Design Toscano. I almost said Design Toscano. I think they just go by Toscano now. Mike's daughter, Stephanie. And they did an issue of their catalog with this special AR tool that every item had a QR code, but you had to download the app. And so every image, I think every image was scannable on its own. There was an explanation of it in the beginning, and it cost them a lot of time and money. And but they could track it, how many people were downloading it, how many people were using it on which photos. It was great for tracking, but in the end, I don't think more than 2 people downloaded it. She was very disappointed. So some of these things, while they make good news for the marketing guys who talk about them, they aren't worth the trouble. And what Kelvin doesn't say is that you should test all this stuff. He says you can personalize your direct mail piece to each recipient's preferences, demographics, or purchase history. Right. If you knew their preferences. I don't even know my own preferences, right? Although I do kind of look for old white guys. I have to admit, you know, just it's what I am, you know. I kind of gravitate to that, you know, and smiling people, I got to say, better than gray cars. So there's a lot of challenges in all of this. Yes, you can do all of these things in direct mail, but, and it says, unconventional formats, fold-out designs, by deviating, you create a sense of novelty. The goal is to create a lasting impression that captures attention and reflects your brand's uniqueness and creativity. No, Kelvin, that's not what the goal is. The goal is to sell stuff, or at least to plant ideas in somebody's head so that when they need it, they'll give you a call or go to your store or website, okay? The idea is not to demonstrate how creative you are. Okay, and that's why we test, because some of the most creative direct mail pieces I've done did awful, and some of the schlockiest, worst stuff on groundwood did fantastic. So you never know, and don't think you know. And if you came to me and said, I want to do mail, I would say, well, what have you tested so far? And if you haven't tested, we will start with that. We'll start with testing your your digital media, and we'll work our way to stuff that matters. And we'll find out what your customers and your market likes best. Okay, so, you know, other things, all things considered, direct mail is unique and testable, but you got to test it. Tangible, but you got to test it. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will know you're smart. Bye-bye.